Veteran of the Week 27, 24 to 30 October 2022, 252074, Corporal Charles David Griffin, 209th and 102nd Overseas Battalions, Canadian Expeditionary Force, First World War. 252074, Corporal Charles David Griffin of Burnham, Saskatchewan, was born on the 20th of July, 1894, in Roweth, Cardiff, Glamorgan, Wales, to George Glendower Griffin and Catherine Richards Mogford. He would be orphaned at the young age of 3. His father George passed away in about 1895 when he was 1, and his mother died in 1897 when he was 3. He was raised by his father's brother, Samuel Griffin, and his wife, Sarah Jane. He attended the Meadow Street School in Cardiff and received his grade 8. By 1911, Charles was living with his cousin Thomas Mansell John and his family in Merthyr Tydvil. While living there, he worked in a coal mine alongside his cousin Thomas. Later that same year, he immigrated to Canada to live with other relatives, his Uncle Alfred and Aunt Jane Baskerville, who had homesteaded just outside Swift Current at Burnham, Saskatchewan, in 1906. His first job in Canada was working for another local area rancher named William Bill Buzzard. He worked for Mr. Buzzard for 5 years. It was in 1916 he took leave from his job as a ranch hand to enlist in the Canadian Expeditionary Force, alongside his best friend, Donald Grant. At the age of 21, he originally enlisted with the 128th Overseas Battalion on the 18th of January, 1916 in Swift Current, but soon transferred to the 209th Overseas Battalion. Corporal Griffin then proceeded to sail overseas to England on the 1st of November, 1916, aboard the SS Coronia. He arrived in England on the 11th of November that same year. After the 209th was disbanded in England, he was transferred to the 102nd Overseas Battalion, with whom he would serve the rest of the war with. Charles arrived in France on the 6th of December 1916 and met up with the 102nd in the field on the 22nd of January 1917. In June the following year, he suffered a bout of scabies and was admitted to No. 13 Canadian Field Ambulance, but returned to duty relatively quickly. He would be appointed Lance Corporal on the 11th of January 1918, and 7 days later, on the 18th, he would be awarded a Good Conduct Badge. Griffin was eventually promoted to the rank of Corporal on the 4th of September 1918. On the 1st of October 1918, Corporal Griffin was wounded in action near Cambrai, France, during the Battle of Canal du Nord, having suffered a gunshot wound to his left ankle causing a severe fracture, a wound that would cause him to limp for the rest of his life. That same day, he was taken prisoner of war by the Germans and was initially treated at a German field ambulance, where he would have the first of 2 operations performed on his ankle. He would then be transferred to a German hospital near Mons, where he underwent a second operation. Eventually, he would be sent to a German POW camp north of Cologne, Germany, where he described the conditions as being very poor. A Swift Current Sun article published in 1979 about his experiences during the war recounted Charles and the other POWs having survived off potato peelings and sawdust. 2 months later, he would be released and repatriated. He would then be admitted to No. 3 General Hospital Boulogne. A couple days later, he would be invalided to England for further treatment as he came out of the POW camp in poor condition. He would be admitted to Lewisham Military Hospital in England on the 16th of December that same year. It was while being treated in hospital in England he met his future wife, Margaret Madge Humphreys, who was one of his nurses. Griffin then would be invalided back to Canada for further treatment of his wounds. Corporal Charles Griffin would be officially discharged from the CEF on the 15th of July, 1919, via reason of medically unfit for service. For his service during the Great War, Corporal Griffin was awarded the following: the British War Medal, the Victory Medal, and both War Service Badges Class A and B. He was also entitled to 1 Good Conduct Badge and the right to wear 1 Gold Casualty Stripe. Despite having a limp and limited use of his ankle, Corporal Griffin would go on to serve again during the Second World War, this time serving at home as an Air Force firefighter. This week we honor the service of 252-074 Corporal Charles David Griffin of Burnham, Saskatchewan. Thank you, Corporal Griffin, for your service, lest we forget.